Hello, everybody. I saw that a lot of you are on here, so rather than having everyone wait for 12:30, I've decided to come a little bit early. Give me a quick moment here. I'm still setting up. Hello, everybody. I saw that a lot of you are on here, so rather than having everyone wait for 12:30, I've decided to come a little bit early. Give me a quick moment here. I'm still setting Let me know if you guys can hear me. Give me a yes, and let me know that you guys can hear me okay. Let me know if you guys can hear me. Give me a yes, and let me know. Yay, you can hear me. Yes. Okay, I'm adjusting as you can see. I'm also trying to add a little music. I'm trying to pump everyone up here as I'm coming in to make this more of an enjoyable experience for you guys as well as for me. Okay? Okay, we are good. Sound check. Everything is good. All right. So let's do a quick introductions. If you are tuning in for the very first time, my name is Holly Lee. I am a certified career coach with 2 decades of experience as a recruiter, executive recruiter, a leader and trainer. My goal here is to provide my best strategies and tips to help you get hired. I know that everyone cares about Amazon primarily because they are the main company that's doing a ton of hiring across tech and non-tech and all of the products and services. Okay, that's why I'm here, and I stream every Tuesday on the dot, a little bit early today. We're all good at 12:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time because so many of you have reached out to me. Thank you for all your kind words and messages. I know that quite a few of you guys have let me know that you've received a job offer. Thank you very much. And I've asked some of those individuals and some of the clients that I've been working with to pop in so they can keep you guys pumped, okay? To let you know that yes, we are absolutely in recession right now. Yes, there's a lot of shit going on in the world right now, but companies are still hiring, right? So first, this is what I am committed and promised to all of you guys who are returning back. I like to start for the first 5 minutes every Tuesday to give you what the main bulk of my questions and requests are from my LinkedIn network, as well as messages like this Q&A. And generally, I stay for about 2 hours to answer all of your questions. Okay, so please make sure that you're here on time, those of you who are, because those of you who comes in later on, there's repetitive questions being asked, and I like to be as most effective, adding value to all of you as possible. Okay, so today's topic is about the Amazon interview process. And I'm going to share with you for the entire process from the beginning until the end. But primarily, I made note here. This is the only note. I don't know. You can. Oh well. This is the only note you can see. Really, there's 3 bullet points of what I think it's most important coming from Amazon. So I will share everything with you. Take it as a grain of salt. I know that this process works. So let's dive right in, and then I will read your Q&A and we'll do an introduction because I love to know who are here as well. Okay, so this is probably my 5th Tuesday live, and every single Tuesday live, somebody always going to ask me, tell me how do I prepare for the Amazon phone interview? Tell me about the onsite. What is onsite? What is loop? How many people on a loop? What is the writing exercise? So there's a lot of those questions. First, I must say that everything that I'm doing for you guys to help you get hired with technology or just any company in general, there's a playlist for all of that. Okay, my playlist is called Amazon Leadership Principle. Check that out. There's 8 of my top choice. I'll eventually adding on a few more. I just haven't had the bandwidth to do so. Okay, second thing is this Q&A live that you guys are all jumping on. It's called Amazon Interview Tips Q&A. Okay, and for some of you who actually watched the replay or from the previous week, I invested a lot of my time. You can tell if you go into my video under the comment or in the description. I do it both because as human, we don't always pay attention, right? I actually put out every single question that you guys asked me and my answer to you with examples in the link. So all you have to do is click the link, boom, it takes you right into, for example, if you're a program manager looking for tip, click program manager and it'll bring you right there. Last week was a pretty good session. It was tell me about yourself. So if you missed that, make sure you check that out, okay? So let's dive right into it because I have a client coaching call in 2 hours. So I want to make sure I get back to everybody, okay? Now, first things first, I'm looking at my little notes here. What is the Amazon interview process? The Amazon interview process to me is by far the most well thought interview process of all the company I have worked for. And again, what I'm sharing with you guys is based on my personal experience. So take it as a grain of salt. I don't want anyone slapping my hand. Everyone's coaching style is different. Every individual, even coming from my background, is different. My goal is to be as raw as possible because at the end of the day, I want you to get that offer. Okay? So a recruiter reaches out to you, right? If they reach out to you, they give you a recruiter screen. Generally, it's about half an hour or so. If your phone call lasts more than 15 minutes with the recruiter, generally that's a good sign. That means there's something in your LinkedIn profile and or your resume that gets them really excited and they want to know more about you. And if you can pass half an hour with a recruiter, generally it's pretty much a good sign, right? You can tell if you listen and pay attention to how the conversation ends, and the recruiter will tell you that they like to share your resume with the hiring manager, or they'll just ask for your availability on the phone. At least that's my style. Why not? I already have you on the phone. By the time I reach out and have a conversation with you, most of the time my hiring manager had already seen your resume, right? So a good seasoned recruiter don't want to waste time. They want to hit all birds in one stone, or can't talk. All stone in one bird? Oh, you guys get the idea, okay? So they don't want to kill time. They had already shared your resume with the hiring manager before even jumping on the phone with you. You know why? Because from the moment you pass the pre-screen, you have the fundamental of what it takes for that specific role. Boom, you're being scheduled for the phone interview. Let's say you get on this fancy phone interview. Generally, it lasts about 45 minutes to 1 hour. Again, the phone don't worry about this, guys. I promise I will slowly pump more content as far as video for you guys. My priority is live because I think that this will add the most value to all of you guys, as well as Amazon questions and answer, rather than making video of the processes that's going to take me a whole week to do so. Okay? So with that in mind, you need to make sure that you know the fundamental of your role. You could be in any role at all. So if you don't know how to prep for the phone interview, generally if you're a software engineer, if the recruiter is very specific, by the way, I should mention that there's tech recruiter and non-tech recruiter. Not everyone who's a tech or non-tech is very adapted into the position, right? Not everyone does. There's junior recruiter and senior recruiter, right? Make sure you ask all the right questions during your recruiter prep call, knowing that you will be moving on to speak with the hiring manager or the phone screen, okay? Ask. When you're coming to ask me, what I'm telling you may be different from the recruiter, so make sure you leverage the recruiter. They are your best friend, okay? And guys, tell me if I'm being too loud because the mic is very close to me right now. I'm actually in temporary housing and there's construction going on. So let me know. I have a plan B if the mic is a little bit too loud and you guys are hearing noises in the background. Okay? Give me a thumbs up if you could still hear me and we're good. Okay, cool. Let's carry on. So for the phone screen, generally, if you look at your own credential, okay? And you look at the job description. Remember, guys, job description and what you can do, which means your resume. If you look at it, what are some of the things that actually sticks out? Because those are the questions that the hiring manager or the phone interviewer will be asking you, right? If you're interviewing for a program manager position, of course, they will ask you for your program management life cycle. You have to paint a picture for them. Okay? If you're interviewing for a recruiter position, I wanted to see how, first of all, your matrix, how you close candidates, what is your style, where do you go to hunt for top talent? Do not tell me LinkedIn because everyone says LinkedIn. So how do you think bigger and dive deeper in providing your answer? Okay, and you want to provide your answer based around the core leadership principle, which I have a lot of examples. If you show up to my Tuesday live coaching, especially the last one, is there's very specific example. Put your questions down and I'll answer all of them. Okay, so this is a very high level to walk you guys through a lot of the uncertainty of applying for a position, have a pending phone screen and don't know what's going on, have the phone screen and never heard back from the recruiter. It's been a couple days to a week. What's next? Okay, what's next is after you pass the phone interview, if the interview goes really well, I mean, put yourself in the hiring managers or whomever the interviewer is. Of course, they're going to either A, write their feedback very quickly, or B, if they don't have time to, they will paint the recruiter and say, hey, I want to recommend for, just a heads up, I'm really busy right now. I probably won't get to write down all of my feedback for this candidate until the end of the day or tomorrow, but I'm ready to move forward to an on-site. Can you get the loops together? Okay, so the hiring manager generally like to do that because it takes time to schedule an on-site loop. Even though everything is virtual right now and no one should go on site for a job interview, it doesn't matter if you've got bill to pay, your health and your safety comes first, right? Okay, there's a couple people who asked me that question last week. I just want to make sure that I'm being very clear. With that in mind, I know that my graphic, I'm sorry guys, is ticking back and forth. This place that I'm in right now, the Wi-Fi is extremely slow. So don't worry, if we get cut off, my phone is my backup, okay? So let's talk a little bit about how you prep for the on-site interview. The on-site interviewed and or the phone screen, but specifically the on-site interviewed, everything is around the leadership principle. Let me explain a little bit, okay? When you provide an answer, you need to mention terminology like, I have done this in order to deliver results. I was able to dive deep with the data into filling in the gap and identifying where the pain points are by looking at historical data from last year, comparing it to where we are right now. And by that, I was able to leverage my team and my engineers, whatever role that you're in, right? In order to come up with an action plan. That is also demonstrating bias for action. You're taking initiative, taking full ownership. That's also demonstrating you're thinking big because no one's telling you to do it. You're looking at data, you know who to leverage, and you know where to go. Okay, so this is just one out of the 1,000 example that I can give you guys. Now, so many of you have asked me during the live stream as well as LinkedIn message, Holly, can you give me a specific example? The reason why I can't hone in one position title for everything that's in my head right now, it's because literally, even if you and I are in a section together and I'm coaching you to do mock interview, that alone is at least 2 hours, okay? It's very intense because I need to look at your background. I need to know where you're at today, where you're trying to get at, what's the job description, what group you're interviewing for. This is not just Amazon. This is for any company. What coach doesn't do that, right? I hope all of them do that because you need to know about your candidate. I'm sorry, your candidate. I'm calling you as my candidate. You need to learn more about your client's background in order to deliver the right content. Okay, so that is the reason. But I will answer everything that you guys are giving me down in the chat box. Okay. The second thing you need to think about, you need to know the leadership principle. I didn't say you need to master in the leadership principle. Okay. And don't worry, there will be a video that is coming up to explain a little bit more on how you can answer a question and tie that around the leadership principle. I just gave you guys a brief example of how I mentioned the word deliver results, how you leverage your peers to look at data and how you translate data to fill the gap. I mean, that's filling the gap, and with the end result, how. The how is so big. How do you dive deep and think big in solving this problem? Okay? The STAR method is something that I've talked a lot in almost every single one of my video. It is an Amazon thing, to be honest with you guys. Quite frankly, the funny thing is, true story, the entire 6 years I've been at Amazon, and I actually started my career as a senior recruiter, I don't know, 8 years ago or something like that. I don't even know about the STAR. And the whole time I've been prepping my candidate for interviews, I don't even talk about the STAR. The funny thing was, as a career coach, I start putting plans together, and I want my clients to highlight what is the intent of the story they're trying trying to share, and what is the problem they're trying to solve, and how. The how to me is really the action plan and what was the end result, okay? And as I hear myself creating my Career Accelerator Masterclass and thinking about some of the material that I've trained at Amazon as a trainer as well, and that's making great hiring decision, I'm like, wait a minute, why don't I just use the STAR method? This is the STAR method. That led me to do more research on it. So guys, some, I every now and then I get, we call them troll, content creator, call them troll. Basically, I'll have individual that comes into my YouTube channel, made a comment, pretty negatively. My channel is creating a positive environment for all of you guys. And if you haven't subscribed already, go over there, do that. Hit the bell notification, because when you do that, you'll get notified by YouTube, not by me, just once a week, because I do not spam you. Okay, so that you don't miss my free training similar to this, and there's more coming up. Okay, I did not invent the STAR method, but it works. I don't care what anyone says to me, it works. Every single clients I've coached, from senior to executive, even non-tech finance people, biz dev, been getting a lot of biz dev and sales people lately. It works, and guess what? They got a job offer from Amazon. So I would challenge anyone that tells me otherwise, that have not worked with me before, reach out to me and I will change your mind. Okay, STAR method. Go check out that video. It's called the STAR method techniques. Okay, and you can do a search as well. The third thing I want to talk about regarding prepping for your on-site interview is there's 4 things. The third thing is practice. You have to practice. Practice. The 60-second elevator pitch is, again, not something that anyone have taught me. I just, after doing this for so long and interviewing so many people, and as a hiring manager myself, my candidates are just way too long-winded. Our attention span is 10 seconds. I've actually had clients telling me that an interviewer at Amazon basically told them that they're being too long-winded, and that interviewer actually re-asked the question so that they can be a little bit more concise. It's not a bad thing. At least the interviewer is trying to provide feedback in real time, right? It's better than saying, no, I'm not inclined to hire you, okay? 60-second elevator pitch is the first video, because I felt like that is the most important video for you guys, okay? And for those of you, I know some of you are on here right now as my client. You know that when you and I are working together, I'm basically saying what you're saying in 15 seconds. I did not rush myself. I don't even know your background. I'm not you. I haven't achieved any of your accomplishment. But just by listening and soaking in with your credential and looking through your resume and hearing where you want to get to, it's very simple to get from A through Z. And tell me about yourself from last week's video was the same thing. It's about, I think my lengthiest was answering about 30 seconds. Okay, you're not rushing. If you know your stuff, it should come up very naturally, right? So you got to ask yourself this, professional, how are you going to prep in answering the interviewer when you feel confident, you know your professional branding, you got it, and you memorize it, and you know it by practicing, okay? Use your spouse, use your best friend, don't use people that you don't trust and you don't know very well, and record that, okay? Just record the whole interview and correct yourself. All right, I'm not trying to sell you my service. I'm trying to give you everything on the table, and there's nothing to hide. You guys know I don't sugarcoat anything. The final thing is my playlist, okay? Anything that has to do with interview strategies and playlists, you have to look at it. I know when I first created content about 8 months ago, I didn't think about Amazon because I didn't want to pigeonhole into one company, because my goal is to help all of you guys land jobs with big tech companies. I feel like I'm able to speak and walk the talk by coming from those background and building teams from ground up, business team that is, right? And I know what the leaders are looking for, and I'm more comfortable in doing so. These days, it's all about Amazon, because Amazon is a main employer that's doing tons of hiring right now, okay? So those are my 4 big tips. Your leadership principle, you need to know the foundation, because all of the behavioral questions are built around that. Check out, when I say check out my playlist, my leadership principle playlist, don't skip through them, guys. Again, do not fast forward and skip through them. And the reason why I can't put a special link there, and for example, if there's 5 tips in customer obsession, I don't have time to do that. If I do that, it will take my time away from spending here today with you guys. And I rather have fun coming in here and hanging out with you guys and answering your questions live. Okay? Let me know if I just make sense, and let me know what your questions are based on what I've just said about prepping for the on-site interview. Okay? All right, let's see who's here. 65 people are here. Woo! Thanks, guys. Thanks for your support. And thanks for coming back, a number of you guys. Okay, I'm going to dive right in here, and I will say hello as I'm reading through what you guys have to ask me, okay? Okay, let me stretch. Okay. All right. Let's go with Vimjay. Vimjay says, as part of data engineer on-site interview, wanting to know what are the important aspects of system design interview round. That's a great question. I should be honest, I've never hired a data engineer per se before, but I can tell you that recently I have done searches on interview questions on Glassdoor, data engineer. If you go to my my job search technique on LinkedIn, it's called how to job search on LinkedIn. I actually walk you through on Glassdoor and how to pull up questions and answer on Glassdoor based on candidates like yourself, as well as current Amazon employee who's a data engineer. I'm not saying that there is actually one answering those questions. They would actually go in there and put their answer, okay? Another thing I talk about is Quora, especially for all of you engineers out there, specifically tech, TPM, engineer, even like product managers. Quora is a great place. If you go there, you can search questions, put data engineer, and send me a LinkedIn message. Let me know what you can find. Usually, if you say data engineer on-site interview at Amazon, someone would jump in and answer it, and there's already a Q&A on there, okay? The design question generally is system design and architecture in general of engineering, okay? Do not quote me on that. Every team is very different. Some team requires SQL and Python. So it really, and some of them require you to have some sort of data science background. So without looking at your credential, data engineer could be a number of things, okay? Hey Shravan, how are you? Chevron is from Tokyo. Wow, I'm so jealous. I wish I was in Japan. It's already too late here, so it might not be able to join the live chat. Please help me with a couple of my questions. Thank you. I know I'm really trying, guys. For those of you who've been here, I will be moving back. Very exciting news. This is called breaking news for me. Breaking news. I will have my own office in 1 month as soon as our condo is fully renovated, where I'm not staying in temporary housing. This is our 6th move since February, right before the coronavirus and the stay-at-home order, okay? And when I do that, I love this, guys. I love coming here. I love answering your questions. I do want to do an evening chat for Asia and also EMEA or Europe. That is in the evening. I want to do one in the afternoon for the US folks and one in the late evening, okay? So you don't have to stay up here. And I know that most of you, if not a lot of you, have kids as well. Okay, I have an on-site interview next week for senior compliance manager position. Can I use the same stories for my first interview? It should use completely different story for an on-site. You always want to use different story. I talk about this in every single live. You do not want your loop of 4 to 5 people, including the recruiter who, of course, everyone's styling in. Everyone is remote now, right? You don't want them to say, hey, Shravan told me about that example. Oh, he told you about that example too? Well, it sounds like this guy hasn't really done much because he's only had one example, okay? So make sure that you have different example. You can have the same content or situation, but the way how you tackle the problem could be different. You could do that, okay? Let me know if that's making any sense to you. Any special preparation need for on-site interview compared to the first? This is actually a very good question. I want to answer all your questions because I know that it's really late in Japan. Any special preparation needed for on-site interview compared to the first interview I had with the hiring manager? It should be different, right? The one thing that I should tell you, and why I can't tell you exactly what questions we'll ask, because you really need to know all the commonly asked questions. And guys, I'll say this again until the cow comes home. It does not matter what position you're interviewing for. I don't care if anyone wants to correct me. Everyone's style is very different. But based on just working with my clients and the one who receive a job offer, a lot of them says, Holly, the stuff that we talk about, some of them, half of them are never asked, but it's very similar. I'm like, I know, because every interviewers are very, very different, right? If I were to go back to Amazon tomorrow and I'm like interview ready because I've been doing it for so long, I'm not going to use the interview bank, which is a commonly asked question. If I have to ask you, give me an example of how you, give me an example how you have seen an opportunity for you to make a huge impact with the customer without them even knowing that they need it, right? I'm not looking at any note right now. You know, when you give me a leadership principle, I can easily create a question around that. And a lot of the folks who's been at Amazon for, 1 year, especially like 3+ years, they don't look at the specific questions, but a lot of the answers are very, very similar. Okay. The best tip I can give you guys is you have to know enough about yourself at the bare minimum. What have you achieved? Write it out. And I mentioned this before in my leadership principle playlist. You have to have at least 2 short example. You don't have to write a page, right? If you think about the STAR method format, your example is, what are you trying to talk about? What is the problem? How did you solve the problem? What was the result? 1 line, 2 line, 3 line, 4 line. 4 lines. 3 full lines. It's what I'm trying to teach you guys, right? Short story, and have 2 of them in every single leadership principle, and some of them are the same thing, right? You can answer one question. You could provide one answer and hit 50% of the leadership principle. That's good. Now give me a couple more, okay? Like I said, the more example you have on, how you have invented things. Everything is from scratch, okay? Try to avoid using things like, you're part of a team or you participated. What did you own? What did you leave? What did you drive, right? And especially if you have experience onshore and offshore, I know if you're here and we just literally end a coaching session about an hour ago, I know I love the onshore, offshore, and also the global footprints because big organizations love that stuff, okay? Hope that answers your question. Hey, Monte. Monte says, just got an email to set up a virtual interview. Would I use the same info you'll be sharing today? Your virtual loop is on-site. Yes. Please, guys, just go watch every single one of my Amazon leadership principle and also watch the STAR methods. And you have to train yourself into answering questions with no more than 1 minute. Some of my clients have told me that the recruiter have prepped them into 2 to 3 minutes. Okay, let's be honest here, okay? Let's pause for a second. If you guys are the hiring manager and I'm the candidate, you're interviewing me, and every single thing that's coming out of my mouth is 2 to 3 minutes, you'll fall asleep. You will fall asleep, especially now when everything is virtual. Imagine if you have to sit in a chair looking at your laptop. By now, everyone have dual monitor or a monitor where you are kabam right in front of them, right? They're looking at you, right? They're looking right at you at your talking, and it's like some of them could do anywhere between 3 interview to even 5 interview a day. They're bored. They don't have time to sit here and wait for you to hit the jackpot by answering your questions, telling them exactly what they want to hear. Okay, so get to the point. You will not feel rushed in giving an answer in 60 seconds or less because you will feel confident in knowing what you have done and how to articulate them. Star, star, and star. Okay? For those of you who got a job offer or my former client, can you please put in the comment and put the word star? And if you feel that you have already tried it, the STAR method work, I'd love you to drop the word star in the comment below. Okay? Hey, Alicia, oh, I can never pronounce it. Alicia. The message was perfect to Thank you. Hey, Prashant. Prashant, if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly, please do correct me. I don't want to do every live stream with the wrong pronunciation. Oh, you're welcome. Could you share a quick tip on Bar Racer? Yeah, ironically, I've been working on a Bar Racer program. I just haven't had time to finish recording it. I have an interview today. Oh, wow, later today. Congratulations for making it this far. Apologies going out of the... Oh, no, that's okay. This is Q&A. You guys ask whatever you need to help you come up to speed. Think of the Bar Racer like everyone else. Guys, please do not feel anxious. From my experience, the Bar Racer can come off as a little bit more subtle, right? Some of them can lack personality, to be honest, just my take, but that could be any interviewer, okay? I don't want to share my biases upon you guys, but a Bar Racer is basically somebody who's interviewing you that's not in your team, not your hiring manager, not your peer, that you don't have any relation in your job function, because Amazon is trying to have an interviewer outside from your org to not have any biases with the role that you're interviewing for. I'm actually a big fan of that, and I know for a fact that after doing projects for two pre-IPO startup lately, they are basically duplicating. They don't call it Bar Racer, but they also have similar program. I know that other companies have it, they call it something similar as well. So again, this is not just for Amazon. A lot of tech companies are beginning to mold into this process in having one person outside of the team to interview you, eliminate bias, and also to measure if you are if you're better than 50% of the people at Amazon, okay? When you're interviewing at Amazon, the interviewer are not evaluating you for just that one specific role, for just that one specific team. Maybe the hiring manager, right? Because if you're the hiring, why wouldn't you? It's your candidate. You want this hire to be for you. But in general, they want to see, do you have long-term career sorry, guys. I'm getting overly excited. Hang on one second. Let me mute myself. Woo, allergy. And if anyone is calling in from Seattle, put that down because it's been raining like dogs and cats. And when the weather changes like that, we can have 4 seasons in one day. It's like 70 degree, 80 degree, and boom, windy, sun, and sometimes snow in the same day. Excuse me. I was saying, so a Bar Racer's job is to really be fair and make sure that you have a long-term growth with the organization and not just hire you for that one role, okay? And that also reminds me, having the right aptitude is huge, right? Your opportunity to be curious in learning. So you want to show up with confidence, but at the same time, when you don't know something, admit that you don't have it, but don't stop there. Ask if you could provide relevant answer, a relevant example, okay? I mean, Amazon is a very peculiar, a very curious environment, and that's how a lot of the leaders drive with innovation as quickly as they can, because it is a company that loves to take risks and try new things, okay? And of course, everybody makes mistakes, so don't feel like you can't share that as well. Can you share examples, same or different, since there are only a few handful of scenario being asked in 7 panel? That's why, Prashant, the more example, I mentioned short story, right? The more short story you have, even if you can have just one, even if you can give me at least one example for every single, well, I don't know about frugality. I never ask about frugality unless you're a leader or people manager, maybe, right? So you have to really pick and choose. Even if you have one example, a lot of the time it's kind of similar to something that you have already answered. But the whole purpose of that is you have 14 examples in your pocket that you can move around. Okay? So mini story is better than having just 7 different stories. What if they never ask the questions that you have prepped and now you just wasted your time? Okay? And every single one of my leadership principle has at least 2 commonly asked questions for an IC as well as a leader. Okay, so answer them with the STAR methods. And why can't I make an example for that? Because it would take me the entire year just by doing so. All right, that's what private coaching is for, or my program. Hi Arjun, how are you? I'm in the last stage for an interview for an assistant manager at Whole Food location. Cool. Can you give me some tips of the type of questions they will ask? When you say assistant manager, are you talking about a store manager, I'm assuming? And if you're in a final round, basically, if you think about, here's the best tip for you guys, right? You could be on your third interview, fourth interview. Think about the questions that had already asked, which means the interviewers can see your feedback, right? The questions the interviewer asks is in their competency, which means what are some of the questions that they haven't asked. So those are the areas I would focus on. Generally, is diving deeper into what you have done as an assistant manager. I don't even need to know specifically the role that you're in, but you just have to make sure that you're able to. I know that I mentioned walk the talk, but you really have to be able to walk the talk in articulating your answer and tell a story, in walking them through with very specific example. Amazon is a specific culture of clarity. Okay? Hey Ricardo, thanks for coming back. I think this is your third week that you came back. I had first phone call interviewed last Friday. Actually, it was a video one with the hiring manager. In average, how many days does it take for me to contact again if I'm still in the process? Oh, for them to contact you again if you're still in the process. Well, generally after the phone interview, within 2 business days or so, a few days, the recruiter will say yes or no, right? The reason why you haven't heard back from the recruiter is because the hiring manager haven't input his or her feedback about you yet to move you forward to the next stage. Okay? And if you haven't heard back from the recruiter in 2 business days, you can follow up with them. Mobile Jones says, is Amazon holding on-site interview or are they still doing virtual? They're absolutely doing virtual. I believe the office is open in October. I thought I saw something like that on the news. Don't quote me on that. But I believe everything is remote. However, because I live in Seattle and I'm fairly close to, actually the entire Seattle pretty much is saturated with Amazon building. And I see that the street parking is full. I'm not surprised if certain roles are actually on site because they're required to whatever that is. Again, don't quote me on that, but I do see a lot of cars on the street because I couldn't find any parking going to my dentist appointment earlier this week. But I know that for now, everything is still virtual. And you could absolutely do a search on Google and you'll be able to find an answer as well. Okay? Hey, Martha. Great smile. Hey Kevin, how are you? Kevin says, I have another AWS SA interviewed. Hopefully with your help, I won't mess up this time. Well, Kevin, you have to ask yourself, and all of you guys, be honest with yourself. Before you go into an interview, ask yourself, are you 100% ready? If you're not 100% ready, are you 80% ready at least? Okay? If you're not even 80% ready, just reschedule the interview. You do not want to bomb an Amazon interview or bomb any interview in general, especially if this is your dream company or this is the perfect ideal role for you. Go interview somewhere else and get the practice you need and then come back, right? I would rather you push off your interview than to just take it. I'm not saying you're not ready, Kevin. I'm saying that you need to really evaluate the type of question that was asked previously and what can you do to be better, okay? There's a lot of people who's coming here for 3 weeks in a row, take all of my coaching, everything that I'm telling them to do to the T and get offer. And I get a message every single week to tell me that they receive an offer from Amazon. Okay? I am really interested to know how it goes, Kevin. So if you can please reach out to me via LinkedIn and just kind of keep me in the loop. Hey, Costanza, how are you? Hello, Sarab. Sarah, I think you are returning, yeah? Some of you got fancy and you have different kind of nicknames, so I'm trying to put the name and the LinkedIn face together. Hey, Naomi. You're welcome, Costanza. Hey, Arjun, how are you? By the way, talking about great YouTube icon. I'm sorry, Martha, I have to pick. I love this. I love this. It just brighten up my mood, even if I am low energy or not brightened up yet. It's just very enjoyable to see a happy face. Hey, Arlene. Arlene says, how do I prepare for the final interview after the panel interviewed? When you say final interview, what do you mean by that? Because the Amazon terminology is you have a phone interview and then you have an on-site interview. So if you can clarify that for me, final interview to me, it's really an on-site. I made it past the panel. Panel is also the loop, right? Now being scheduled for one final interview. That means there's more information that they need from you. When you do that, I would challenge you to ask the recruiter if this individual can give you any feedback and any feedback on areas that you could focus on or prepped for the final interview, right? It could be because you are answering a questions and it's lacking some detail and they want to probe on you more. Most likely, that's what it means after a loop and you have one more. Or they really love you and excited and wanted to hire you and they're pre-selling you by giving you one more interview, okay? It's not always a bad thing. Hey, Monte. Hello, Eric. Okay. That's a really nice bike. I recognize you, Kalel Bazooka. I recognize your name by your bike. I used to have a Yamaha V-Star, but in the making of my little prince, my baby is sold. My original baby is sold. Okay. I have 4 interviews for Operation Manager Italy. Nice. And the 4th is TBC. What is TBC? And the 4th is to be scheduled. I think what you mean is to be scheduled. I think what you meant is to be scheduled. Okay. There's a lot of questions on Operation Manager and Operation Program Manager. Go to my Amazon Interview Tips live Q&A playlist. Again, you just do a Control F, right? All the questions are on there. Click on the link and it brings you right to it. Okay? There's a lot of interview strategies and tips that I've done every single week on, I call it OPM. Hey, Raul. Cheers. Brazil is in the house. Hey, Ling. How are you? It's weird. I feel like I'm calling my own name. My Chinese name is Ling. I didn't get to come the last session, but wanted to let you know I got the job offer. Yay! Can we please say a yay? A whoop whoop! Great job! Great job! I love that. Hey, you can miss my session all you want if you're busy during an on-site interview or negotiating your job offer. Okay? What is the best way to get additional support for you in landing a job at Amazon? They're recruiting me for a specific role. The best way is, I mentioned this in the last live, I don't take hour coaching anymore unless it's salary negotiation. It's appropriate. It's inappropriate for me to coach anyone for a 1 hour interview prep. I mean, for my clients who are even on here, the ones who has a job know that I spend 3 hours with them. Okay, 2 hours is just purely mock interview because I don't just send you a list of interviewed. I looked at your position and your credential and search for questions and also any tips around where I can help you in answering around the leadership principle and using the START method and also within 60 seconds or less. Okay, my process is intense, but it is fun. At least we have a really good time, and it's almost a half a day interviewed. It's in my halsey.com homepage. It's my interview accelerator. Go check that out. We'll be spending a couple hours together where, just like any live coaching, if you guys are here, you know my style, right? And that is, if you have questions, I don't feel comfortable just cutting you off. If your 2 hour, 3 hour is over, I want to make sure that I'm satisfied that you're getting what you want by over delivering. Okay, that is my private coaching. If you're interested, I do have a group coaching, but for some odd reason, a lot of individuals are willing to just, I've had like a weekend call at 7 a.m. Because I was the only time. I don't work on the weekend. I do from time to time, because a client of mine really needed me and I was able to deliver. And we spent, our 2 hour ended up, we're just like going back and forth. I was having so much fun with mock interviewed that we were hanging out for 4 hours. Okay, so check that out. It's called the Interviewer Accelerator, prepped with me on my webpage. And my information is also on all the video. It's halsey.com. That's it. And also, guys, check out the freebie page, because there's a lot of template that you can download and help you create your story for free. Okay, no catch. Okay, let's pick on someone. Oh, hey, Dom. So Dom is part of my Patreon group. Patreon is a place where I will answer all of your questions on a regular basis. I know it says that I'll answer your question once a month, but because I'm so obsessed with my audience or my customers, that's what Patreon is. And Dong is actually one of my supporters. Thank you. Let me know if you have any questions that I haven't answered in the Patreon community for you, okay? And I am building a portal where the group can jump in for a live chat, and I'll start to do stream once a month for the Patreon community as well. And you can use your nickname. I know a lot of people don't want to show up like who they are. That's fine. So I'll do something special for that audience, okay? Hey, Harbor Ma, how are you, Harbor? Harbor says, how do you think about examples for every leadership principle? If you look at the leadership principle, it's not so much of what type of example, it's more so of how you answer the example that's tying around, right? Early on, when I first joined, I gave an example on how I would take a data questions, like how do you use data to solve a problem? I can answer that. I can reword that like 10 different ways. How do you use data to tell a story? Can you tell me about time where you use data to figure out what the issues are, and what is your story? How do you overcome that? Did you solve the problem? What was the end result, right? So it doesn't matter what the question is. I can answer this by hitting almost all of the leadership principle. And I've actually just did that. So rewind the very first, okay? Also, there's quite a few data questions or questions around answering around the leadership principle. If you look at the previous live stream, it's on there. It says LP examples, okay? And a lot of this, guys, if you want more specific, you should really consider joining my group coaching. There's actually is 80% off for my Patreon follower. I'm not asking you to like have an arm and a leg, but you're getting live coaching from me over Zoom every single week in where I can see your face, you can see my face, I'm real. I want to know that you're real. I'll answer your questions with very specific, with screen sharing, kabam, everything throwing at you every single week with one fee every single month. So if you're interested, reach out to me. The rate is actually 80% off for my Patreon community, okay? I also have the same group for my halsey.com business page, all right? I'm not having this live stream to sell my product, but if you're asking a questions, I feel like I have to answer. So you all know that I'm a career coach. I'm not just an interview coach, okay? I've got a couple VP recently and asked me if I provide career coaching for them. Hey, well, thank you for coming back. Thanks for sharing. My question today is, should I apply for multiple roles at the same time, engineer, analyst title, but different group? Yes, there's nothing wrong with that. As long as you are applying for positions that have the exact same title, just don't apply for, like, for example, a BI engineer and then go with an engineer analyst, right? Or a system, and don't just go off wall or a program manager. So excuse me, that would be a red flag. As long as you're applying to a job with similar title, if you read the body, the qualification and preferred qualification is pretty much identical, go for it, because not all recruiter will get back to you immediately. You want that one recruiter to reach out to you. Okay? Hey, Vinit, thank you for joining from India in the house. Naomi says, I had 6 interviews in Amazon waiting for feedback. I think you meant you interview with 6 different individuals. How is the decision of being hired made? Do all 6 people have positive with hiring me? That's an excellent question. That's actually the question that no one has asked me yet. If 5 people agree to hire and 1 is it against me? That is an excellent question. No, that's not necessary. Generally, it's very common we call them debrief. Just any company, we call them debrief, right? Meaning everyone who had ever interviewed you, including the recruiter, will sit on the table or virtually sit on the table and will go around the room to say yes or no and hear each other's feedback. In the end, the bar raiser will ask, does anybody want to change their vote? It's extremely common that 50% of the room says thumbs up and some says thumbs down. The obvious one is obviously all the thumbs up, or if you have like 70% thumbs down, then you're probably not going to make it through, right? So if you have one person having thumbs down, it may be because you're lacking something there that it could be they didn't dive deep enough for any reason, you didn't do well. But if you answer something, not the exact same answer that you provided for other interviewer, but let's say the hiring manager really likes you, or your peer, or even the bar raiser wanted to stand up for you, then you could. So if you have one person that gives you a thumbs down, that doesn't mean that you don't get the job. That's very, very common that you're going to have somebody that are weak hire, okay? There's a weak hire and there's a strong hire and there's a hire. Now, I don't know if the weak hire is still there. Normally in the note section, they will say weak hire, okay? Or, solid hire. They'll say something along that line, okay? That's why I love the bar raiser, because this individual is so unbiased. They are listening and they're summarizing the feedback for everyone else in the room. And then the bar raiser, what they do is, even before everyone do a round robin to give feedback, they will give a high level summary of the decision. And then everyone goes around the table with an opportunity to change their vote, okay? That's why I'm a huge fan of the bar raiser program. Give me a thumbs up if that's clear. Hey, Carl, thanks for coming back. Carl, salute to you. I wrapped up the circuit on Friday and I received the call today. Yay, you received a call today. They wanted to bring me in as a TPM level 5. Level 5, it's a mid-level technical program manager instead of 6. No spot on that team, so might end up in the accelerator. When a lot of the time, when you say no spot on the team, are you talking about there's no position available? Generally, when you meet, if you were to meet the bar for a level 6, then there is no way that Amazon will bring you in a level down. They will pimp you out to other team to make sure that you're being interviewed at the same level, okay? But if you meet the bar as a 5, there's nothing wrong with that. Amazon's bar is very, very high. I was a 6. I was a 6 for 6 years, okay? The things that I've done, if I've never, if I didn't leave my last job, and if I came back from maternity leave and so on, I could, there's a possibility I can end up with a team of like 20 something people, because when I left, the team was getting to like 15 people, okay? So that's just a level 6 on top of, being a trainer, on top of being interested in the bar raiser program, on top of during recruiting events, on a global footprint, on top of like everything else. So the expectation for an IC6 is extremely high, and you have to be having already those experience from other organization coming in, okay? And I mentioned onshore and offshore just a second ago at the very beginning. Also global, right? Having the global experience, that's all level 6. Level 5 also does that, but that's where you gain a lot of that experience, okay? Hey, Samir, how are you? Ansi says, thank you. Well, you're welcome. Hey, Raul. Raul says, First phone screen is peer or possibly the person recently in the role you're applying. Is that correct to assume? How can I know I'm talking to the hiring manager when the position says head? You know what? It doesn't matter. I think you guys are paying too much attention with the position title and who you're talking to, rather than focusing on passing the interview and answering the questions and knowing everything about the role you're interviewing for. That is the best tip I can give you guys. Okay? It doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter. You know, head of something doesn't mean that that's a hiring manager. It could be a leader for that team. It could be someone that you will end up collaborating with, or that just so happened that that person is available to do the phone interview and no one else. Okay? You know, there is a possibility if the team is still small and forming and the hiring manager have a new team that doesn't know how to interview yet, they're not fully calibrated, so they would jump in and have the first phone interview for the first conversation with you. But there's also a lot of time that one of your future peer will be taking the call as well. Okay, that's what I mean. Don't focus so much on that. Just focus on being an expert in the position that you're applying to. Hey Aubrey. Hi Nancy, thanks for coming back. Oh, great. I'm glad I answered your question, Costana. Hey, John. John says, let me move up here. John says, my technical interview was about 90 minutes with a mix of a few behavior questions. Yep, that sounds about right. Behavioral questions, if you're a technical expert, behavioral question is allowing the interviewer to just dive a little bit deeper in the way how you tackle problems, right? Again, depending on what position you're interviewing for. Generally, there's some technical questions if you are a technical professional, because interviewers don't want to waste their time or yours inviting you for a full day on-site interview when you can't solve a problem with coding or demonstrating your coding availability. I can't talk today. Also, behavioral questions is learning if you're actually a fit into the Amazon culture, the way you tackle problem, and the way you articulate yourself beyond your resume. Okay? Oh, here's a tip. Here's a tip from Ling, who got a job offer. I'm still having a fat smile on my face because Ling just recently started coming around about 2 to 3 weeks. I'm so happy that she got an offer. I thought of one example for each leadership principle, and since I'm managing a team, I made sure to have at least 4 examples for a management style. Yes, I like to see 3, but 4 is bravo to you. Some of the folks who receive job offers are very similar to you, Ling, and thank you so much for sharing that. And just to come back, because I wanted to show the audience that what I've preached to everyone works, but you guys really, you have to do the work because everything is already there for you. My template is made for you. So far, all my clients who receive job offer, they have sticky notes on the wall for sake, okay? They have sticky note with like leadership principle and like examples on there so they can memorize their answer that's tied into those leadership principle in different colors even, okay? That's how far they have gone. I never asked them to do that and they did it on their own. I have some who, you know, even before our interview prep session that created all of this information for me where I don't have to walk them through. Okay, so you have to tell yourself you're willing to work hard and go above and beyond for you so that when we do spend time together, we are just going to roll with it. Okay, and if you have absolutely no clue, you're lost, you're rusty, you don't know what on earth to create your storytelling, that's what the coaching is for. It's really holding your hand, walking you through, and really typing it out for you. Okay, thanks for sharing, Ling. Really, I'm really happy for you. Keep in touch. John says, should I still expect technical questions at the loop for 90-minute phone interview, which was a 90% technical and 10% behavior? Absolutely. The loop, the 90-minute is just enough information for them to have an overview to see if you have the foundation for the role. 90% technical, okay? When you go to the on-site, it will be separated with each interviewer where they're diving deeper and see how you actually tackle around problem and solve them using technical terminology, or, you know, I don't know what position you're interviewing for. If it's coding, right? Can you solve a problem using data structure and algorithm, right? And if you're a technical program manager, the technical part is now go design a system to solve ABC problem with this scenario. So they're actually going to give you a brief scenario and see how you create the system's architecture from scratch. Okay? Hey, Annie, good to see you here. I really want to get a job from Amazon, but not a tech job. Is there a possible way to do it? Well, of course, Annie. You've been here for how long now? We've been doing this for almost an hour. Every single week, I would say my audience now is 50% tech and 50% non-tech. There's a lot of them. I think it's depending on your background and what is your ideal role. What do you want next in your career? Okay? Because last week when we did Tell Me About Yourself, where I've actually asked everyone who's showing up to write out very on a high level, tell me about themselves, and I would actually go in there and fix it for them. Okay? I wanted to, and you could write on the very bottom, just tell me, what are you looking for? You have to be able to utilize your skill, even if you're making a transitional move in a different title. I remember looking at your LinkedIn profile, Annie, and even if it's a different industry or a different position, but there's a lot of similarity when it comes to like being customer obsessed, delivering results. What have you done to solve problems to make an impact for your team or the organization, right? It's really at the end of the day, taking what you already know, and I call them your superpower, that you're really good at, and using that for a different role that are non-tech. Amazon is still hiring like crazy. Okay, if you go to jobs on LinkedIn, it's all Amazon. It's like 90% Amazon, depending on what you're looking at. Okay, don't give up hope. I mean, there's just so many different opportunities out there, and I'm slowly seeing organization having more positions coming up, like Microsoft, for another example. Okay, Samir says, got a loop this Friday, finished with the writing exercise. Awesome! How much does a writing exercise count? A lot, a ton, okay? The odds are if you finish a writing exercise, that means you're interviewing for an IC level 6 and above, or you are a people manager. I have a video on that. If you haven't yet, folks, go check that out. Made for senior folks. The writing exercise is a way for the interviewer, they will read that. Actually, they will read it prior to the debrief. If they haven't, then they will have to, okay? It's demonstrating your ability to articulate in solving a problem. Go check out the video. I don't want to ruin it for everyone here, but basically, grammatically, you have to be correct. Amazon is a culture of communication, especially written communication. Important things get written down. That's why there's a lot of white paper for leaders and senior folks. I've written, a handful of stuff myself because they're moving so fast. If you have a meeting and everyone is just doing, soft talking, even if you have someone to take minutes, why waste your time to take notes when you can have a piece of paper? They can go back to the desk, and if they have any input, they will just add it right into the paper and make it perfect. Okay? That's how the culture execute and be able to scale quickly. All right? Hey, Red Riding Hood. My second phone with the hiring manager is on Thursday. Peer interview went well. Yay! Well, congratulations for moving forward in the next round. Hey, Raphael. Raphael says, I'm desperate. My interview with Amazon for software engineer position based in London will be this Friday. I'm desperate. What are the most important key concepts for the interview? First, go check out my previous live. There's a lot of software engineering interview tip where I talk about your CS fundamental and how you solve a problem. Okay? You got to ask yourself, if I want you to solve a problem using data structure, are you able to do that? Because that's exactly what you will be doing. And also, what is your coding language? And are you able to solve a problem using that coding language? Okay? And there's also your object-oriented design and analysis. If you have to design a systems, are you able to do that with OOA or OOD? Okay? Because all of that is part of the technical part of your interview. On the phone, it's not too much all of it, but on the phone, you will need to solve a technical problem. Okay? The on-site, Obviously, there's no whiteboard because everything is over CHIME and virtual right now. But I'm assuming that you'll be coding right on the computer where the interviewers can see your code live. Okay? I mean, if you're, a lot of, I beginning to realize recently that a lot of people think of Amazon as a dream company. When you're nervous and you know you're not ready to interview, guys, don't put yourself in the situation when you know you're not ready, you're going to fail, and you're doing it anyway, okay? Because once you bomb an interview, it's going to take you about a year, if not longer, to re-interview. Because if you're, for example, if you're an engineer and you fail with coding, right? You can't re-interview in 6 months because you haven't coded in an industry standard in building a product or services that went live, and then re-interview again. What if you can't solve the problems? Because the interviewers are not going to ask you the same problem. Okay? You're welcome, Verret. Hey, Renee. Renee is another Patreon member. Let me know if you have any other questions, Renee. And yes, I'm using your tip on building a community where everyone can chat. You're welcome, Costanza. Well, my energy is really based on doing things that makes me come alive. And this, honestly, guys, makes me come alive. This is my full-time job, and it's my career coaching program, and also relying on YouTube, right? Obviously, the more engagement I have, the more people that shows up on my live, the more thumbs up. 1, not 2. If you put 2 thumbs up, that's no thumb. So just, giving me a thumbs up, like putting comments in there, just sticking around and hanging out with me, that will allow YouTube to know that my stuff is actually real and be real and realistic, and people are finding value. And YouTube will help promote my content to a wider audience. Okay? So thank you so much, guys, for just being here and supporting my channel. The voice of the sun. The voice of the sun says, if the answer are 1 minute long, how is the rest of the interview time filled in for the first interview? If this is a 45-minute, also, do I need to prepare for a different tell me about yourself for onsite? No, you just need to prepare one. Tell me about yourself is high level of who you are, how many years experience do you have, who have you helped, and why you're interested in the position. Most interviewers are not going to ask you, tell me about yourself, but they will ask you, so, what attracted you to this position? Right? They will ask similar questions, but not necessarily tell me about yourself. I love this question. So if all of you guys are still with me here, okay, listen up, guys. I get a lot of, I don't feel like I want to rush to give like a 30-second spiel to answer my questions. It's 45 minutes long. So what am I going to do if I answer, if the interviewer has, 3 questions on their list and I'm done? Hang on. Correction. First of all, everyone come prepared to have at least 3 questions to ask you. Keep in mind, professional, they will continue asking probing questions, okay? That's why your answer should not be long. You want to give the interviewer a chance to play ping pong with you, which is have a communication and have a conversation with you, okay? This is like live coaching that I would do to my group coaching. You want to give them an opportunity for you to share your full story. If you don't, you'll just be going like this, and they'll be sitting back, looking at a computer. You're like the 5th interview of the day for them, and it doesn't work that way. You will put them in boredom, okay? I know, because I still have a lot of friends who still works on Amazon, and I actually check in with them on a regular basis to see if things have changed. Keep it to 1 minute, okay? If they ask you 3 questions, there's multiple probing questions per each of those interview. And also keep in mind, the first 5 to 10 minutes is an introduction of themselves, right? The last 15 minutes or so is an opportunity for you to ask question. Okay, so you guys do the math. I would rather have a really good conversation and be very concise. Make sure that I was able to answer all of the questions and they're ready to hire me, rather than we're running out of time and I'm taking too long and now the interviewer lost interest in me. Okay, think about that. And the ones who receive a job offer don't feel like they're rushing through and their answers are a minute or less. Hey, Aubrey. Aubrey says, I got a virtual interview tomorrow morning for an area manager delivery ops position. Which of the leadership principles should I focus on most? I would say you need to know all of the leadership principle precisely. If I have to choose, it will be my top 8 that is on my, first of all, guys, don't cheat. Give me a yes or a thumbs up. If you haven't already, actually, you can't. Give me a yes. Tell me that you know what I'm talking about with my Amazon Leadership Principle playlist. Tell me a yes, or tell me how many of those you have already seen, because a lot of the questions are on there. Try to answer them based on your position. Okay, let me give you an example. Customer obsession, that's the first one that I felt is the most important for all position, right? Because Amazon is extremely customer centric. If you are an area manager, and obviously is for ops or fulfillment, okay, tell me a time where you have seen, okay, that's not a good answer. That's not a good question. Tell me a time when you have received a feedback from a customer that you could have done better into delivering results, but you didn't. What was the situation? How did you come about into filling the gap, and what was the end result of that? Basically, what I'm trying to ask you is, I don't care if you're an area manager, a software engineer, a program manager, an admin administration. Basically, I will ask you the same questions. I want you guys to fill the questions where you don't need to ask specific. I do ask very specific based on, obviously, in an area manager, your environment, right? I'll ask you questions like, how big is your environment? Can you walk me through a day-to-day as an ops area manager, because I'm not familiar with your environment, assuming, and I'm totally making this up, let's just say that you are with like Zulily, right? I also came from Zulily several years ago. There's similarity and there's differences, right? So walk me through and paint a picture of your environment for me, because I want to see if you have done and been in an environment that is as large of a scale as an Amazon, okay? And depending on how you answer, it will hit the customer obsession, ownership, delivering result, and how you think deep and dive big into solving the problem. You guys got the idea. I'm basically asking you one questions, and I can answer the questions in hitting 8 of those leadership principles. Okay, that's why I'm trying to tell you, if you can give me at least 2 examples, short story in every single one of them, you will feel so much better and confident. And some of them are pretty similar. Okay. Customer obsession is key, and tie it around the customer. Hello, Samit. How are you? Samit says, I wasn't asked a single behavioral question in my phone interview yesterday. What was your role? If you can tell us what your role is. It depends, right? Really depending on your role and the interviewer. If the interviewer likes to be prepared, or there are different styles. But in general, if you are a technical expert, for example, for software engineers, a lot of the feedback that I have read, I've read, all of my candidates' feedback. There is mainly a lot of tech questions, right? Just solving a tech problem, or like designing the infrastructure, takes 45 minutes or half an hour. So it doesn't leave any time to ask behavioral questions. It's case by case, or the interviewer can feel like they are fulfilled with the answer that you're giving them, and they're ready to just invite you for the on-site interview. So it's really depending on the scenario and case by case, but in general, you need to know the fundamental behavioral question. Oh, and here's a tip from Ling. Ling says, this is to the voice of the sun. The interviewer will ask probing questions. It was great for me because I really engaged them. Yes, that's exactly my point. Thank you for sharing that, Ling. V. Harriet says, can you cover what might be asked from a small company in an interview with a large company like Amazon? Go check out the leadership principle. I talked a lot about what if you come from a smaller environment, and also check out why Amazon. That video was out 2 weeks ago. I talked about who might be a good fit for the Amazon environment, and what exactly does the environment look for. not everyone that applied for Amazon, as you all know, came from another big giant, right? Well, first of all, there's not a whole lot of big giants out there, right? If it's comparable, I mean, Amazon, if you're interviewing, and Amazon really owns the most products and services across all the companies, right? I mean, to me, they don't really have a competition because they own literally all of the spaces, including hardware and like the embedded system, right? So if you're coming from, a startup or mid-sized company, what technologies that are you working with that are relevant to the team that you are interviewing for, right? If you're interviewing at AWS, then you better be having a lot of example around the cloud computing infrastructure, right? Again, I don't know what position you're interviewing for, so you need to know that space really well, okay? In the end of the day is, do you have the experience they're looking for to do the job? And that's the first question you should be asking yourself. Job description. Hey, Mariah. I'm just going to call you Mariah. 1986. I had an interview with Amazon yesterday with a hiring manager and says, please be detailed as possible. Then do they expect 1 minute answer? How do I keep it concise and detailed? That's fine. Normally the interviewer will not say, please be as detailed as possible. Do it in 1 minute and let them ask probing question. Okay. You don't want to be so detailed in a way you don't want to be so detailed in a sense where you're talking for 15 minutes. I have done a number of different tests where I try not to stop my candidate and see how far they go. They will go on and on and on because number one, when candidates find themselves talking too much, they get really nervous and they're way too long-winded and they're off topic. Okay, so when someone wants you to go as detailed as possible, that means they're interested in the topic and the question that's being asked. Provide clarity. Detail really means clarity, right? Be specific on your example and how you solve that problem. How. The how is so big, and you can say the how in one sentence, right? And how you solve the problem, and then put it right back to them. Does that answer your question? And let them ask more probing question, okay? I'm going to say this again. Don't go off tantrum and be so detailed that you are providing a 15-minute answer, and that's very common. And what the interviewer asks you is not a common thing, okay? Unless you absolutely have not answered the questions already where I'm really trying to help you, you're not giving me what I want. And sometimes when you don't have the experience, you can't give me the answer I'm looking for. Then I'll say, well, I really would love to have more example. Can you give me a very specific example providing clarity in your experience with, ABC technologies in how you solve this problem, right? So when someone says, give me as detailed as possible, that's actually very vague, right? I would help the candidates a little more to make sure that they're going the right path. But then again, I came from a recruiting background where that's my passion. It's candidate experience. Mobile Jones says, you said that there are 4 areas that are key to prepping for an onsite. Where's my note? Yes, I did. For an onsite, but I'm not clear on what the outline is. Could you please just list them as 1, 2, 3, 4? Okay. Number 1, my leadership principle playlist. Okay, it's my top 8. You need to know what those top 8s are because every questions that will be asked is helping you think bigger in how you can create your answer. Number 2, I talk about the STAR method. There's a template of my experience at Amazon. I've actually written out my story, right? When I've written out my story, by the way, I've just started a YouTube channel. I need to go back and rewrite it. So basically, if I were to tell a story of what I have on there, I can say that in less than 1 minute. Go check that out, a STAR method, and you can download my template for free. I have a template for a lot of the important video, like the 60-minute elevator pitch. I have a template for that as well. I walk you through step by step. Number 3 is practice. You have to practice. Watching my video and showing up is a great thing, but if you don't implement that in like practicing and making it perfect in front of your significant other or a good friend, you just don't know the areas to make improvement on, okay? I mean, of course, you should always record yourself to see areas that you could do better in. And lastly, I have a playlist for almost everything I talk about. It's on there. Go to my YouTube channel and click on playlists. YouTube channel, playlist. That's all you need to do. Boom, 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 boom. If you want to take anything away from me today, go to the Amazon Leadership Principle. I think I've repeated that for about 10 times. Okay? Again, the people who got job offers are the one who actually come up with example for the ones that I've talked about. And I actually list the questions in the video for you. All right? Hey, Martha. Martha says, how should I answer strength and weaknesses question? Should I use the STAR method? You don't have to use the STAR method. You can if you want to. I actually have an example on how to answer your weaknesses. If you go into last week's live stream, it's on there. It'll say how to answer your weaknesses. Okay? Your weak, and I also gave an example as well. So go check that out. I just never had the chance to make a video out of this one. Your strength is obviously things that you're really good at, right? Things that you're good at. I call them your superpower. And how could you make an impact in your role in using your strength? If you can tell me right now, what are you really good at? What are the first thing you're really good at? And how can that impact the role that you're applying to, right? The second thing is your weaknesses. Your weaknesses is not really your weaknesses. My weaknesses is because I'm extremely customer obsessed to the point where I want to make sure that my clients are able to get the bang for their bucks, and also my time. If I don't feel satisfied in each coaching session, I'm not even going to let you get off the call with me. I need to make sure that your questions are being answered. I have materials ready for you, and I will deliver above and beyond to make sure that you are fully prepped. At least I can tell myself that before I let you go. And a lot of folks don't do that. Everyone's style is different. Okay? And in the business sense, even with my customer, which is my hiring managers, I work 7 days a week and drove myself crazy, not being able to create the work-life balance for myself. Even now, I don't have a work-life balance. I work 7 days a week. Okay, my first coaching session is 7 a.m. on the weekend when my 2-year-old is sleeping, because I'm so obsessed with helping you find a job. That's my weaknesses. So you need to give an example of your weaknesses, what you can do because you are over delivering or you're very obsessed with delivery to your customer, and how do you tie around that. Okay? Maria says, and one, I know guys, YouTube only have, I believe, 20 words or so. You can't type it all out, and you have to hit enter. That's why you see a lot of names coming in, but I don't want to just answer, half of questions and not the other half. I have to use a leadership principle as part of my behavior answer, like I had a bias for action and decided to do X and Y to solve the problem or not. Well, I wouldn't really say bias for action. You don't have to say bias for action. You could say, for example, at ABC company, I had an issue. Let's just say, at Amazon, I had a goal of hiring 400 for the Alexa devices team. I have a very small team of 5 people, and I knew that I had to quickly expand to 12. I had to really learn from the other peers that are in the Alexa org much longer than I am to see what success looked like in building the amount of recruiting support and leveraging the business to help me come up to speed as someone who is new to this org. The thing about Amazon is every position that you have been in changes because it's not the same. ABC does not work with XYZ because Alexa is very specific. It's consumer electronic, and the people we hire have niche skill, right? That's allowing me to take the initiative. I didn't say bias for action. To take the initiative to put a paper together and address how I can fill the gap into hiring XYZ number of people with a delivery date with butts and seats in order for my business to launch the first Echo Show. Okay, something along that line, but polish it out a little bit with your own experience. Okay, and by the way, that's true story. That is really true story. I had to hire 400 people. I mean, you could say delivering result. You could say, I had to think big. It forces me to dive deep by doing this, but don't say every single thing to make it so obvious that you're studying the leadership principle. Okay? So use your judgment. Hey, Lalu. Lalu says, I passed my interview, messaged the recruiter to follow up, and she said they are deciding on who to move forward with. I thought passing interview was last step before job offer. When you say past job interview, did the recruiter tell you that you passed the interview? Because if the recruiter says that you have passed the interview, they would say you've done really well. That's how you know, right? You've done really well. You've actually passed the loop, and we're in decision of extending an offer, and we'll be in touch. That's typically how you know you've passed the interview. But congratulations. I know that you and I connected on LinkedIn. Let me know if you can clarify that a little bit. Keep me updated on what's going on with that, okay? Dong says, a lot of people are concerned with the questions around POD questions, POT questions, which I am definitely focused on what my prep, which I am definitely focused on, but what about prep interview? What are top questions to ask during prep and not to re-indulge? Dong, my dear Patreon community, if you look at my Patreon news feed, 2 weeks ago, I've actually put on my top commonly asked questions for Amazon on there, okay? Let me know if you have looked at that before, okay? So those are the questions that I've seen over and over again for across a lot of the position. That's how you prep, by creating your stories around that, okay? And reach out to me, and I know that you guys in the Patreon community reach out to me directly, and I'll give you a specific answer. But the template is there for you with all of the question. Hey, Naveen. Naveen says, I'm interviewing for an SDM. SDM is engineering manager. I passed for the first interview. I have a 5-hour virtual interview on Friday. My recruiter asked me to prep 28 star stories, 2 each. I don't. Okay, that's overkill. That's a little bit overkill here. Okay. That's funny. You could have, okay, here's my tip for you guys. For the star, you need to know the leadership principle very well. You need to you need to dedicate at least 2 weeks to prep for your interview with your story. It takes that long. If you need me to help you with interview prep and your interview is literally the following day, I will decline you. I'm not doing it. Because after my interview, I want you to allow yourself at least 2-3 business days to practice. Okay, just getting everything from me like today, it's not going to get you the job. You still have to practice. Like I said, you need to have at least 2 examples for each. You don't need 28 stories, but if you read the questions, the questions for the leadership principle, for example, right? Having backbone, disagree, and commit. Think about a time where you don't see eye to eye with your manager or a client. If you don't have your manager example, give a client. Someone, anyone, right? What was the situation, and what was the outcome? Give me an example, right? If you have more than 1 example, give me 2. That's what they're trying to tell you, and that's what I'm trying to tell you as well. If you have never experienced a situation where you have disagreement or not seeing eye to eye with your manager or your customer or anyone at all, you're not going to make it through an Amazon interview, because at Amazon, that's what you will have. You will be challenged every single day with your peers and people around you, because it is filled with a lot of the smart people to generate ideas. And because the environment is so diverse, that's just any company, right? Not just Amazon. In a diverse set of talent, someone is not going to agree with you, and you need to be able to tell me 2 stories for those. Okay, I can go on with the 14 leadership principle, but that's what it means. If you don't have 28 stories, give me the one that you have. And that's how you prep for it. Ivan says, what behavioral or technical questions for technical account manager? Go check out my previous live. I've actually answered a number of them for account manager and also technical account manager. And the technical part, Ivan, it's really what program or software have you used in your previous role that's relevant to Amazon. I talk a lot, guys, a lot about the job description in the last live, and I'll mention this again. If you don't know the type of technical questions to ask, the job descriptions will highlight, right? For instance, it could be in a SQL environment, a Python environment. You don't need to code, but a lot of the terminology, and again, I'm totally making that up. Look at the technical environment and look at your current technical environment and how could you implement those environment into the role that you're applying to, okay? It could be like a SaaS environment, right? I'm just giving you some example. So you need to have the fundamental of that. A technical environment can also mean who are some of the key partners that you've leveraged and worked with. Are they software engineers? Are those the technical architect, right? So those are the technical terminology. You will not ask to code or do anything like that or design any system, but you need to have the knowledge coming from the environment and the space. Martha says, does Amazon ask, how do you use yourself in, how do you see yourself in XYZ? Yes. If yes, should I answer with the STAR method? Yes. Try to answer everything with the STAR method, because the way how I coach my client is with the STAR, I basically ask, okay, you don't have an example. Okay, what's the first thing that comes to mind? I'll start typing. All right. So with this example you're giving me, what is the problem you're trying to solve? Boom, right there. How did you solve it exactly? Okay, how could you go back and think deeper into solving this problem? Right there. What was the result? Boom, you got it. That's your STAR answer. Okay, not everyone is going to ask you, what do you see yourself in 5 years? Depending on the role, I ask that question, right? I've interviewed a principal recruiter from eBay for a senior recruiter position where I was a hiring manager for Amazon before, where I had to ask this individual, where do you see yourself in the next year? I don't even want to go 5 years, because a year at Amazon is a lot, right? And where do you see yourself in 3 years? So that I know where to put the right plan together so that individual would be successful. And this individual wanted to be a people manager, so we will set them up that the way from the very get-go, from the moment that individuals start on my team. Okay, a lot of the time when hiring manager asks you those questions, it's really helping them to outline how they should onboard you as well. And I really like this individual. That's why I ask. Hey, Adam. Adam says, I applied for physical security project manager. My resume is under review. I want to get prepared for the interview. Besides the principle and STAR theory, is there anything else I should focus on? You should really focus on your branding, okay? Your branding is, your resume needs to look like the job description at 80%. If it doesn't, you need to go back and change it. That's the best tip I can give you, Adam. Because a lot of the questions that the interviewer will ask you around the commonly asked question is also around your resume, okay? And Cheryl says, how important and what is the interviewer looking for when asked at the end of the interview? What questions do you have for me? Hey guys, if you guys are interested to know my template that I've shared with my Patreon community of the type of interview questions to ask, give me a yes on the bottom. And if we're not connected, connect with me on LinkedIn. Let me know a good email address, and I'm happy to send you my template of questions to ask the hiring managers, your peer, and also people outside of your team who's interviewing you, such as the bar raiser. Okay? Kevin says, is it okay to ask the recruiter questions via email before the interview, or will they get? Of course not. I mean, if you have questions, when in doubt, always ask, because it's always good to have clarity and know what you're getting yourself into. I love it. Yes, Nancy says STAR. Okay, Lalu says STAR. I see more STAR on here. Sergio says STAR. Okay, there's like a couple STAR on here. Carl says STAR. I love it, and I can go on with STAR, and Ling also says STAR. You guys get the idea of STAR. It's all over, and I'm doing this on purpose, is because, guys, the STAR method really works, okay? It really does work. Create your story. If you don't have stories, you're done. And guys, I'm saying this in the utmost loving way as possible. It helps you. You got to ask yourself, what is my situation? Don't tell yourself I don't have it. Excuse me. If you were to use my service, I will drag it out of you, and we're going to come out of the session with example. Sometimes I think my clients take a good beating from me. But hey, the end of the day, they get job offer, and that is my intent, okay? VJ, hey VJ. VJ says, I have a loop. Let me see, VJ, hang on. Let me see. I have a lot more questions, so I'm going to speed them through for about 25 minutes because I have a special coaching client that I have to jump on, so I will speed it through, okay? But I'll make sure I'll answer as many as I can. VJ says, I have a loop for DevOps consultant, 2 leadership principle story. I share in the phone screen. I'm not sure how could I manage to think 10 story. Yes, you can. You could do it. Yes, you can. Just ask yourself. You don't have to, if you don't have 10 different examples, just rather than thinking about, I need to have 10, 28 examples, just think about where have I done this? And by the way, when you guys are giving your example, stay current. If you could stay within the last like 6 years and not 10 plus years, okay? That's way too old. Stay current. All right? If you're really struggling badly, reach out to me on via LinkedIn and let me know what part of creating story that you're struggling with. I'm telling you guys right now, and I say it with a lot of love, right? Because I want you guys to get that job offer. Every single one of my clients, and we're talking about directors and VP level as well. These are not just interviewing for a level 5 or a senior position, okay? All of them. Every single person tell me the exact same thing. I don't have a story. Guess what? After 3 hours of spending with me, we have all of the stories carved out, okay? That is the beauty of the STAR method, and I want to see you try. I know, it's only 20 words. I know, guys. Sorry about that. I'm hoping that YouTube will fix that on their chat so that you could actually put all of the questions in. Sergio says, what is the reason so many people need to interview? What is the reason so many people needs to interview you before you land a job offer? Well, because they want to know that you have the right skill, Sergio, you know, because it takes a lot of time and money and investment to train the right individual. Hi, Dino. I'm going to pick on the ones that I haven't helped yet, okay? Dino says, how does the internal referral program works? I will get referred tomorrow for a position. How it works is very similar with a lot of the bigger company is that you are referred into the internal systems, and then it will go directly to the recruiter, or oftentimes your referral or the hiring managers will go to the recruiter and say, hey, I'm really interested. I want to refer this candidate for my team, or is there a fit? Of course, the person who's referring you is going to get a referral bonus, okay? Shh, don't tell them I tell you that. But more importantly, every referral get looked at very seriously because at least you're getting your resume reviewed by the hiring manager or the recruiter, okay? That's how it works. And the process is the same thing across, that you have to do a phone interview and also an on-site loop, okay? Hey, Arlene, Seattle here. The allergy is driving me absolutely crazy. There's a questions for you, Ling. VJ says, could you please share your tips on how you manage to come up with two stories? I can guarantee you right now, Ling is using the store format and forcing herself to think big on what other experience she uses, and she would go back and fix them to make them more enticing for Amazon. But I'm not speaking for you, Ling. You go on ahead and you answer that question. Ashish says, I am having operational round interview with Amazon today after 4 hours of designated account health support associates. Well, best of luck to you. Let us know how you go, okay? Ekta says, in a virtual interview for non-tech PM, should I expect only behavioral questions, or will there be knowledge-based questions like what would you do in XYZ situation related to a job? Well, actually, ECTA, that's a very good question. XYZ situation are also behavioral questions, right? Yes, there will be. I've had so many program management interview tip on behavioral questions. I would challenge you to look at my Amazon interview tips Q&A playlist. Again, I'm not wasting your time. Just go find PM. If there's a link there, click on it. It brings you right into that. Okay? Again, create your story. And when you have your story, you will be able to drag yourself in answering very concise to the question. Okay? Surish says, basically, for under consideration, how long does it take to get a phone interview? Under consideration means that they are reviewing your information, most likely with the hiring managers. In general, Amazon's recruiter, I talk about the 2 and 5 promise. I don't know if it's still there. 2.5 years ago, they were launching it, which means that every 2 business days within the week time frame, they wanted to get back to you. If the recruiter have already engaged you already, you would generally hear from them every two business days. Hey, Wilmer, thanks for coming back and hang out with me. I know that the interview process at Amazon is based on the 14 leadership principle. However, I read the first step is your phone interview. The first step is your phone interview. And guess what? The phone interview is around, it's not specifically based on your leadership principle, but your leadership principle will help you prepare for your phone interview, right? Why wouldn't you want to do that as well? Because you're creating questions. Especially for non-tech folks, your phone interview, a lot of them are situation-based behavioral question, and that is all around the leadership principle. Okay? I love your photo, by the way, Wilmer. I think I said that in the last live. It's an excellent LinkedIn profile photo. What is the most important thing that I need to have in mind to be able to advance in the virtual interview during the phone interview? Well, during the phone interview, one, you have to show up in frame like what I'm doing right now. I have very little light here, so I use what I have, and I want to make sure my audio is very clear. Visually, I have a video that's called Virtual Interview Strategies and Playlists. It's under the playlist called Virtual Interview, right? Check that out so you know how to show up polished and well. But the bottom line is, again, if you look at the job descriptions, I can't remember what position you're interviewing for, Wilmer, but you need to make sure that you're able to answer basic questions. Phone interview is not allowing you to be an expert. It's allowing the interviewer to know that you have the foundation for the job that you're interviewing for. Good enough that they are inviting you for a full day or half day interview, okay? So you need to, at the bare minimum, know how you are able to solve problems. Tell me about a time. So everything is around behavioral questions, and you need to make sure that you have multiple stories around that. You don't need to have 28 stories for the leadership principle. At the bare minimum, you need to be able to know what your highlights are in situations where you have delivered results. Who were your customers, right? Who are your customers? And why should someone hire you, right? 45 minutes will go by a lot faster than you think. And remember, just an introduction, conversation, and asking the interviewer asking you questions and vice versa, all of that alone, it's already taking up 15 minutes. So you have half an hour. Your interview is half an hour. All right? The more story you have, obviously, it's better. I like to prep my candidate to be over-prepared versus under-prepared. Well, so far the ones that has the job don't feel like they're over-prepared because a lot of the things that we do talk about are in the interview process. And Ling just answers somebody's question that says, VJ, right? I did a lot of studying. My pod interview, meaning on-site interview, loop, okay? With 4 interviewers were scheduled 8 days out. I spend every night thinking of example in the STAR method. Oh, yes, thank you. Yes, yes, yes. You see that, guys? That's how much time it takes. I mean, you're working for you. Why wouldn't you want to devote that time for yourself? And Carl says, I had 2 to 3 for each principal. That's great if you have 2 to 3, but I need at least 2. I'm glad I did it because I used the third example to avoid reusing a couple of times. Yes, that's the beauty of having multiple examples for each leadership principle, so you're not being redundant. Kevin, how many rounds of interview typically? Well, if you're an on-site, normally it's 4 to 5. And another tip of a lot of you saying, 28 example is a lot. This is coming from someone who just got a job offer, says, I kept my answers short so I could engage them in conversation. Actually, Ling, I'm going to copy this and probably put it on my branding somewhere. This is beautifully said. The hiring manager and I went off on tangent trying to formulate a solution, and I know she was the manager for me. Yes, that's great. When you are there interviewing, you also have to interview the interviewer too, right? Because not everyone is a great cultural fit for you and or for the hiring manager or the team as well. That's excellent. Thank you for sharing that. Arjun says, I am good. Is it for Amazon location with the Whole Food store? My manager referred me to the job. Excellent. Let us know how it goes, okay? Ashma says, Holly, can you please tell us about the types of LP questions that could be asked in an on-site interview? And I hear the bar racer. Can you please explain to us what it is? Ashma, go look at the first half an hour. I talked about the bar raiser at the very beginning, and I talk about the bar raiser in a lot of my stream as well. If you go to the BR, a bar raiser, click on there, and I have a whole description of what the bar raiser does. I actually did a pretty good one about an hour ago, okay? Rewatch this live stream. And also your second question is, for the on-site interview, on-site or phone screen, the behavioral questions, look at my Amazon Leadership Principle playlist. Check out my playlist, okay? I have it all there for you. The voice of the sun says, do you have an outline for phone interview with HR? Is it more focused on practice experience or rather stories and LP? If you're having a recruiter prep, the recruiter is usually pretty generic, trying to make sure that you are who you say you are, basically validating that you have the experience on your resume. So generally they will keep the conversation pretty light. Even if they were to ask you a behavioral questions, they're not diving deep as they would with the hiring manager, but really making sure that you have the foundation to move you forward to the phone interview, okay? And also walking you through the Amazon process. Assi says, Starworks went to an interview in gaming industry. Listening to your YouTube made me realize all those people were asking with STAR method. If I had listened to your video, I had nailed it. See, I told you it's for all companies. Thank you for sharing that. Much appreciated. There's a Google user. A Google user says, I was not able to make it to the first round. How long do I need to wait to apply again? It really depends on your feedback. Generally, if it has to do with coding or something technically that you don't have experience, then the company, this is not just Amazon, would like to see some changes in your current role where you could gain those experience for at least a year. Okay? Yes, STAR is a big key. I'm going to move Wilmer all around here. Hey, Nancy. Thanks for coming back. Lilo says, I passed my interview, messaged the recruiter to follow up, and she said they are deciding on who to move for. Okay, so you finish your interview, you message the recruiter, and the recruiter responded who they're moving forward. I thought passing the interview was the last step before the job offer, hear back time. Well, when you're done with the interview, unless the feedback is positive, meaning we're moving forward with you, those are the terminology that you that you want to hear, right? I mean, generally when you're interviewing for a position, there's multiple candidates interviewing for it, and they have to pick the best candidate for the position. But please let me know how that goes. I know that we're connected on LinkedIn. Hey, as Hish says, I'm not getting any idea how should I prepare myself for the account help support profile. I prepared 14 leadership principle. Will that be enough? Yes. I just want you to know the leadership principle and have your stories around it. At the end of the day, guys, you can prepare until the cow comes home, but if you don't have the experience, you don't have the experience. But if you're able to use a STAR method and tie it around the questions that I have already put on my leadership principle playlist, if you could do that, just try. The first reaction I get from everyone is, oh, I don't have it. Well, I don't know. I'm like, oh, I don't know what to put. Well, start somewhere. Okay. I'm in a hotel room, for crying out loud, with like things that I put together so the background doesn't blend in with me. Right? I have to, drop off my son very early this morning while having an 8 a.m. client coaching for a couple hours. You do whatever you can, but at the end of the day, you need to tell yourself that you have tried, you've done it the best that you can, but your story is the one thing that's going to save you. Okay? And the only way to make it perfect is to start and to redo it again and again and again. That's why you need at least 2 weeks to prep for your interview. And if you need me to help you, even with my coaching services, within like the next couple of days apart, I won't do it because I know that you can't be successful. Raphael says, well, before what Raphael says, my second round interview for software engineer in Amazon in Dublin will be held this Friday. There are some data structures that I don't have background. What tips can you give me? For software engineer, if you don't have any data structure background, I would say go learn, or I wouldn't say learn, it's too late to learn. Go polish up on your academia background. Do you have a CS degree, right? I will study up the best that I can, and I will be very honest with the interviewer that you don't have experience with data structure. Could you answer the questions a different way or in a different format? Okay? And you also said there are some, repetitive. That is really weird. I'm seeing the same questions popping up twice. Oh, hey, Anlu. Anlu is another person who received a job offer about 2 weeks ago that keeps on coming back to support my channel. Thank you very, very, very much. If no one shows up, then I won't be doing this. Okay, thank you so much. Hey, Anlu, if you have any tip regarding storytelling with the STAR methods, because a lot of people are telling me that one, it's really hard to answer a questions within 1 minute or less. Two, should they create stories, at least 2 examples for each leadership principle? So what strategies have you used that work and that you're able to get an offer with Amazon? Okay. And Red Riding Hood says, they asked me 3 STAR questions with dive deep, failure, and prioritization of task. Can the hiring manager can ask the same leadership principle? No. Generally, either you have a phone interview or the loop or the on-site interview. Each leadership principle is being separated by each interviewer called competency, that they will not be asking the same one again. You're safe. That's why it's good to have multiple examples. What if they do? Not everyone come prepared every time, right? Ansi says, in continuous of someone else's questions, so if you apply for more than one position and one of them reach out, how does that work? Does one team of recruiters see that you apply for other job? Excellent question. Yes, they do see that you apply for multiple position. It's a first come, first serve. In the end, it's the candidate experience. If a recruiter A reaches out to you and that's for a position that's not in your priority, it's also okay for you to let that recruiter know, oh, by the way, I really appreciate the opportunity. I'm excited about Amazon. Just to let you know, I also apply for, ABC, or let's just say AWS over here. If the person from consumer retail reaches out to you, is there any way that I can interview for both position? I will open that up. Okay, why pigeonhole yourself for that? So generally, you would still have to pass the initial phone interview, and if all goes well, then your on-site loop will be split into two different teams. Hey, Deborah. Deborah says, my final interview is Friday for an IT product manager. Is a 6-hour scheduled call for senior to VP. Is there any advice that you can give me? Yes, that is your story and everything that we just talked about. In your case, you are interviewing for a leadership position, and I'm going to assume that you have already submitted your writing exercise. Congratulations. That means they actually like the writing exercise. Then you get invited. They not get invited. Actually, you get invited to the on-site, but you're expected to finish your writing exercise at least a couple days prior. Okay. Also, be prepared to answer leadership questions. Right. In my Amazon Leadership Principle playlist, the reason why I see commonly asked question and leadership because of this. I know that a lot of my clients are on the executive side, right? It's helping you think of a time. How do you build a team and scale ABC product, and what is the time frame that it took for you to do that? Of course, it doesn't matter what level you're in. The biggest mistake that you made in your career, what is it? Because they always want to hear, even especially as a leader, you're going to make a lot of mistakes because everything is moving so fast. Everything is at speed, and leveraging so many different key partners in order to make any project go live quickly meaning in months, not in year. Right? So they would love to hear those experiences coming from your background. But at the end of the day, they're going to be digging questions to ask you based on what you have already done. Okay? The leadership principle, look at the leadership commonly asked question. Okay, Danny. I have a couple minutes, so I'm picking on someone new. Danny says, thanks for your time. I had a phone interview and we'll have hiring manager this week for Europe. Do you have anything about procurement PM? Go look at the previous live. There's actually some procurement PM, but at the end of the day, all of the PM is pretty similar. That is your program management life cycle and how do you tackle problem and what is your life cycle process, along with, of course, the biggest problems that you've solved and the mistakes that you've made and how you went above into solving the customer's issue. Oh, I actually like this one. This one says, if you applied and they like you, but you're overqualified or they think another person too, would they refer you to another team? Generally, a good recruiter would. Right, because recruiter would get recruiter credit if they refer you to different team, but the intent is really building a great candidate experience. Why wouldn't they want to help you? And Carl says, I'm a high L5 and I agree with coming in at an L5 instead of 6. It's also setting up to be successful too because it is hard. The environment is just moving so fast. As a level 6, as a level 5, you're really doing the work, but not at the scalable as a 6. Still, congratulations. You've done a great job. Ashma says, one more final question. Should I focus on doing on-site interview? Basically, everything we just talked about. And are there anyone... Nancy says, I made an Excel grid of all of the leadership principle and examples of what questions were asked and my star answer. Yes, I love it. I'm so glad you said that because those are actually some of the strategies and tips that I have made my clients do is to create an Excel sheet with the questions and their answers so I can see them and go in there and help them tailor it nicely. Yes, thank you for mentioning that. And Phil says, I have my my second interview, how many processes will I have to go through? Generally, you just have a phone interview and an on-site interview if they have additional questions. After interviewing with 4 or 5 people in a loop, they may have you talk to one more person, but generally the process is pretty standard. I love your answer, Nancy. I'm still stuck on you using the Excel spreadsheet. Wonderful. Let's go to Nitin. Nitin says, does my previous submitted application, reject or withdrawn, have any impact on the current role I'm being interviewed for? Everything has to do, right? Because the interviewer and the recruiter can read your feedback. When you re-interviewed or are continuing the process, they want to make sure that you're going the right path, and not just wasting their time, but wasting your time if the position isn't the right one for you. Oh, thanks, Arlene. I love hanging out with all of you guys. Come back every Tuesday, 12:30 p.m. Oh, congratulations. You passed your interview and you're in the 3rd round. Felix, I believe you are new to my stream. I fell on the interview in November last year. How long do I have to apply for a new one? I would say if you fell last year, by the end of this year would probably be a good time. Again, remember what I've said earlier, guys. Depending on where you have failed, for example, if you fail your interview and you're still in the same job doing the same thing, the odds are, even if you make it to the phone interview, you haven't really grown from your experience, right? Then it may take more than that if you're still doing the same thing as the previous year. Great job, Red Riding Hood. Okay. I'm curious about the status of a role I applied earlier on the application board. Changed from under consideration to application submitted, and I wouldn't pay too much attention to that, to be frank with you. If you have a recruiter already reach out to you and know who that person is, I would reach out to follow up. If you don't, that just means that there's a lot of applicants. Look at this, right? I am really now the Amazon coach here because everyone is interviewing for Amazon. A lot of you guys applying for the same role, even if it's not for the same team. I would say be patient. During this time, the best thing you could do is polish up on your skills. Amit, I didn't even see you. Look at a couple of my Patreon folks coming in. What about for finance analysts? Jose, there's a lot of finance tip also in my previous stream. Go check that out, right? Finance, it's all about data, spreadsheet, software program that you've done, and how do you add value, okay? Phil, same thing, for TPM position. There are a lot of TPM interview prep on my most recent couple stream. Check that out. If you can't find an answer, then reach out to me. All right? I'm just skimming through as quickly as I can. Dong says, I did review the questions for the interviewer. I love them. I'm specifically asking about the prep call with the HR recruiter. Any special questions? No. For the prep call, guys, I would just say don't stress yourself out. A lot of you guys are. It's just very generic. The recruiter just wanted to know really why you're leaving your current environment, making sure they're hiring for the right culture fit. Do you really have the experience that you stated for the role? Also, a lot of the time it's on prepping you with the interview process and what the next step looked like. By the time the recruiter wanted to talk to you, they already like you. They just wanted to make sure that you are who you say you are by walking the talk, validating them what's already on your resume. Okay? Do not overstress yourself. You don't even have to write your 28 leadership principle example for the recruiter as well. Take it light. Hey, River. River says, I have a random offer in interview last week, straight to 2-hour back-to-back interview, so it seems like I skipped the phone screen. Is this a good thing? Yes. That means that the hiring manager really like your background. If this is the case that you're being skipped to phone screens direct to onsite, that means they don't want to waste time. Your resume, you must have a very good resume, by the way, and they see a lot of things that they love to move you forward, okay? I keep on saying one more questions, but I really have to go. I have a phone interview coming in 2 weeks. What kind of questions? Everything that we just said. Go check out my SDE interview prep in the previous live stream, okay? And guys, if I show up to my live stream and I see people that are in earlier than 12:30 moving forward, I'll jump on a lot sooner for you guys. So that way I can take more time to hang out with you all and answer all of your questions, okay? Otto War says, I wasn't hired for 2 roles at Amazon a month ago and recently got a chance to interview again. Does my current recruiter know about my last role? Yes, your recruiter knows everything about you because they have access. You know, like I said, there's good recruiters, there's bad recruiters. Some of them may just give me a thumbs down right now. I'm not bashing them. There's good one and bad one, just like workers and talents like all of us, right? A good one generally would spend their time in reading through all the feedback to make sure that they acknowledge that once they get on the phone, to avoid having so many phone interview and not making it through at all, okay? So they could just simply be having exploratory chat with you to see what is a better fit, okay? Hey, Neil. And Neil says, how many answer story I need to practice for an L3 position? L3 is more of a junior role. I would say you need to at least give, like, you could be level 3 or level 6. You need to have at least 2 example. And if you are earlier on in your career and you don't have 2 example for each leadership principle, at least do 1. At least there is some story to be told. If you're interviewing for level 3, that means you've got some sort of industry experience or relevant hands-on experience that the hiring manager is interested and can see a relevant fit there. Okay? All right. And one last question. How do you ask the interviewer for the email after the interview? If they're not going to give it to you, if you need to reach out to the interviewer, send a thank you message to the recruiter. Okay? And Ansu says, thank you for all your help, Holly. It's great for everyone. And go STAR methods. Yay! Okay. So guys, thank you so much, everybody, for your time today. Again, I will see you all next Tuesday. I have to run. Hopefully you all have enjoyed this as much as I have. Okay? Goodbye. Have a great one. Talk soon.